As much as we want to devote all our faith into authority figures for protection, there are still human beings and are capable of making wrong decisions. The Fourth Amendment is significant because we citizens can only live freely if we have the right to privacy in our own cars and homes. Under the Fourth Amendment, no police officer can search someone's home without probable cause. What is probable cause? Let's ask Matt.
Probable cause is a term that means it is highly likely that you have something illegal with you rather than not. For example, an officer could search your bag, car, or home with the accurate evidence and facts backing him up. Otherwise, he is using reasonable suspicion or hunch. Reasonable suspicion is stopping somebody with no knowledge or at random. Someone that is stopped with no knowledge or at random needs to provide consent as well. These also lead to investigatory stops or Terry stops. Probable cause is the standard required for your basic Fourth Amendment rights. And remember, this is all valid if you give consent.
To further understand probable cause, let's take a look at the Supreme Court case Terry v. Ohio. Lauren?
On October 31, 1963, Cleveland Police Department Detective Martin McFadden saw two men, John W. Terry and Richard Chilton, standing on a street corner acting suspiciously. Detective McFadden observed the two proceed alternately back and forth along an identical route, pausing to stare in the same store window. Each completion of the route was followed by a meeting between the two on a corner. The two men repeated this ritual roughly a dozen times. After one of these trips, they were joined by a third man named Carl Katz, who left quickly after a brief conversation. McFadden suspected the three men of a possible stick-up, approached the three, identified himself as a police officer, and asked them their names. The men started mumbling, so McFadden spun Terry around, patted down his outside clothing, and felt a pistol in his overcoat pocket. He asked the three men into the store, where he then removed Terry's overcoat, took out a revolver, and ordered the three to face the wall with their hands raised. He patted down the outer clothing of Chilton and Katz and seized a revolver from Chilton's outside overcoat pocket. He did not put his hands under the outer garments of Katz or under Terry's or Chilton's outer garments until he felt the guns. The three were taken to the police station, and Terry and Chilton were subsequently charged with carrying concealed weapons. This search on Terry was reasonable because the detective had observed Terry and his companions acting in a manner he took to be a preface to a stick-up. A reasonable person in the detective's position would have thought that Terry was armed and thus presented a threat to his safety while he was investigating the suspicious behavior he was observing. The events he had witnessed made it reasonable for him to believe that either Terry or the others were armed.
Since the police officer McFadden gained reasonable suspicion that the suspects were involved in a crime or plotting to commit a crime, he had probable cause to stop and search the male's outer garments.
Out on the streets, policemen can pull you over with probable cause, but they cannot search you unlawfully without a warrant or your permission. However, in New York, many people of African American and Latino ethnicity have been stopped and frisked.
But now you're stopping innocent people walking down a block or just walking with a group. That don't mean they're necessarily doing something wrong. I felt like the only reason I got stopped and frisked is because I was black.
Some argue that the Fourth Amendment hinders police officers from doing their job efficiently. This is due to the belief that police officers will not be able to obtain all adequate evidence in an investigation.
Clifford Rigaud says he received bad evaluations for refusing to go along.
And so when you didn't do it, all the supervisors here started to gang up on you. And they start putting you on details, assignments that mostly delegated to rookies.
Just like any other human being, Clifford Rigaud was doing his duty out of fear that he would be humiliated and downsized in his workforce, showing that police officers will do whatever it takes to get a paycheck.
But Mayor Michael Bloomberg and Police Commissioner Ray Kelly say this will hinder their ability to fight violent crime, which has gone down under their watch.
As a result, today we have fewer guns, fewer shootings, and fewer homicides. In fact, murders are 50% below the level they were 12 years ago when we came into office.
But because of a purposeful move by the city of New York to direct this practice at blacks and Hispanics.
If we can find remedies to stop officers from violating our constitutional rights, then maybe other forms of police abuse as it relates to people in my community and other community members, maybe some of that begins.
We go to where the reports of crime are. Those, unfortunately, happen to be poor neighborhoods and minority neighborhoods.
There were 7,363 fewer murders in New York City compared to the 11 years prior to the mayor taking office. And if history is any guide, those lives saved were overwhelmingly the lives of young men of color.
However, a federal judge said police reasoning didn't add up, that between 2004 and mid-2012, 87% of the 4.4 million people searched were Black or Latino. This ended with only 12% being charged with any sort of crime. The reasons people were being searched was due to them being in high crime areas, walking suspiciously, or having suspicious bulges. The judge found that these stops were also unconstitutional, that it seems that they were stopping only one race to instill fear.
Our founding fathers set up the Constitution to ensure that the citizens of the United States can live a life with freedom and the pursuit of happiness. In this composition, the Fourth Amendment protects our liberty and happiness in our society by limiting the officials' authority over people. In doing so, we citizens can roam the United States with privacy in a safe community.